one. But this is a year where a lot of offensive linemen are. Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. That's the old deal. But seriously, just a comment to get us started here. This was a good year for us to zero in on that offensive line, and it was a good conceptual thought, but it fell to where we could do that as well. So that's reflected in our group. So you guys ask these guys a question. Will's going to go over for you whenever you want to his perspective about all the picks, and Coach obviously do whatever you want them to do, whatever they want to do.
Well, go ahead. Will wants to go ahead and go through each of the picks. That'd be great, and then we could ask questions. Is that okay?
Go down today's picks. Carson was a guy that we identified early on with the ability to play inside and outside. Really raw in technique, and a lot of the things that he was doing was a lot on his natural ability. There's some things that we even noticed at the combine, visiting with him, asking him questions, this and that, and you know that there's more upside there because of his answers and the things that he was looking at, plus his work ethic and how he competes. And he'll tackle as a corner, which is also a positive, and we really think good things about him to be able to contribute on special teams and any role we put him in. Flournay's a big receiver that we really like, big and fast and strong and physical. Really stood out and fit in at the combine and at the Senior Bowl to show that he belonged with, NFL-type players, and think there's a great upside there. Nate Thomas, like Jerry said, this is when you look at the drafts, every year we go in and talk about the strengths and the weaknesses of the draft. This is one of the stronger offensive lineman drafts that has been in a long time. And so, a player of this caliber that moves people and does things at the NFL level with his size, is his ability to bend, be able to play inside and outside, that makes it attractive and makes it for a competitive room. And then you got Justin Rogers. We want to get big. We want to be physical. And Justin Rogers is big, nasty from Auburn with some length that can play that big inside nose tackle position. So fitting needs as well as being the best players for us going down those, based on our board going down that way.
While you're rolling, why don't you just go on up give us a little refresher from your eyes on the top guys? Well,
Leafau, Marist is a linebacker that can rush, that can play stack, that can play on teams. He's got 34-inch arms, and so adding that multiplicity into our defense and what Zimmer wanted from that position, a specific position, you see those things from the guy, and he does it at Notre Dame. And so we feel like it fits in on the defensive side. Cooper likes to dirt people, I read last night, whatever that means. I'm glad he's doing it for us. With his ability and to play the guard position. I mean, he's played all over there and also snapped. So that ability and that demeanor, bringing that to the team, is something that we wanted to do. Nealon, we talked about him the other day about how hard and fast and physical he plays, the athleticism plus the intelligence, adding that to our group. And then Tyler, we're going to block out the sun on the left side and have a strong side there on the offensive line. That good?
Since you've been having to cover up all the holes of how we've messed it up for not being active in free agency, if you would kind of see how you think we've at least hit some edges of some holes.
Well, I think from an offensive line standpoint, obviously we, when you lose two really good football players in Tyler and Biotic and Tyron Smith, we came in here looking to improve the offensive line and to go along with a good young group that we already have. And, I've mentioned those to you guys, and obviously did that, with Nealon. We lost Dorrance, and certainly he steps up and fits that. And then just in general, linebacker, to get Kendricks was a big deal for us in free agency. He knows Coach Zimmer's system. He'll be great out there. But just refilling that linebacker room, certainly I'll call him Marist because I don't want to attempt the last name. It's spelled out here for me, but that helps. And then you're always year in and year out. Mike came in here and said they always took a receiver or two at Green Bay and add Flournay to that group, and then but doing the offensive line group, and then of course, to get some bigs in there. Rogers there at the end is a guy that our guys liked, and I think it fit in terms of trying to do what we needed to do. I mean, the obvious one we hadn't done yet is running back, but as I say, player acquisitions 365 days a year, and we'll continue to look to improve that running back room.
We think Lance is a good addition, Trey Lance, to looking ahead at having addressing the quarterback position, depth, otherwise. So, like I said last night, and I've got it right here again, got him right here in this draft as though he were a draft pick for us. But there's a lot of young players here. We had about a handful of them last year that didn't play or get to play, meet expectation. They got to come on so that when you see us rolling off, I don't want to be elementary here, but when you see us rolling off of some of our great names of guys that have been here 10 years, 9 years, and what have you. Boy, they've got to be coming with some young guys behind them that if they get a chance, they'll go. And to me, that's what you're seeing here, if I may state the obvious for you. And we've got to have some of these guys be special as we think they might be here. But this is the way you got to roll this thing. And got to watch. Got to watch the temptation to, with some of the issues where you can get real heavy. The one great thing about all these young guys is availability. They're available. Now, they may not be ready talent-wise, but they're available. They don't have down times, the injuries that you have later on. So these are all pluses. I guess sum this up. This fits in real nicely with the overall thought of how we get better, how we go forward, and hopefully continue, in my mind, real success in the regular season and while addressing how to get better in the playoffs.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. A couple of questions. The second would be for Mike, but the first one's for Jerry or Stephen. You mentioned not addressing running back in this draft. Can you talk a little bit more about how that fell and why you chose to, or why you weren't able to address running back, especially on the third down?
I think a lot of times there's always a question mark, will you really, really, really stick to your board? And it just felt like every time the situation was there, for us to make a pick and do the right thing, it wasn't at running back. We had running backs, we'd be thinking, okay, our pick's coming, in 10 picks, 8 picks, 5 picks away. There'd be a run, and then, he might be taken. Or, we obviously had a group of running backs there in that, space where I think there were 75 or 85 players that we had to watch leave the board, and we had a handful of backs that would have been backs that we would have considered, but it just didn't work out. And, at the end of the day, you stay true to what you're about. And, I think obviously our corner here, Kalen Carson, he was just a guy that was sitting there, he's kind of just jumping out at you because of the grade we had on him versus the rest of the board. And, you just have to jump on a guy like that. And, that was the right thing for us to do at the time. And, we'll have opportunities throughout to address this running back situation, and feel like we'll get that done. And, it makes a running back's job a lot easier when the guys up front are doing their job. And I think we really helped that situation today in terms of the foundation of our offensive line group. And we just feel like, we can address that situation as we go.
And Mike, I know this position will still be addressed, but just in general, looking at it now, how you see managing this group by committee this season, and just how it may be a little different than what it's been since you've been here.
You referring to the running back still?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think just like anything, when you look at the running back position, you always want to have a 3-down back, and then also, the question that's always asked, in our discussions, because obviously, we're building a 90-man roster, and then we'll get to the 53, and then ultimately the 48 is, everybody needs to do, two things, and that's where, the special teams comes into play. So if you look at the dynamics of the running back room right now, I mean, it's a young group, but they all have, have upside. So I like our group. I mean, adding Royce was a really good addition for us. He's a proven player, but he's also a proven special teams player. So, Rico's healthy. You got Deuce and you got Hunter, and then also let's not forget about Malik. So I mean, you have players that are all they're going to be here. The younger guys 2+ years, and we'll be. I think they'll be better in the second year in the offense. Just some of the things that we've changed and adjusted coming from year 1 to year 2. Because as I said here last year, we put a lot more responsibility on our running backs, just with the new protection scheme that we added and so forth, and all those guys, took a big jump. So yeah, I feel really good about where we are today, and as Stephen's already stated, I mean, it's not over.
Clarence, 4-star telegram. No, Stephen, you said a number of times that people will scrutinize you, criticize you until you guys get it done in December and January and take the next step in the playoffs. Based on what you've done in the draft and free agency, how much better positioned are you to take that next step now? Jerry and Stephen.
Go ahead.
I thought you were asking Stephen. This is all in, Clarence. You started that stuff. You know that, don't you? Down to Senior Bowl. But the bottom line is that I think that relatively we have given ourselves a chance to be better at the end of next year than we were at the end of this year, because I'm figuring in now some young guys that last year didn't play as much as they're going to be playing this year, and some of the positiveness there. But I'll also include this draft, which we all know is speculative because they're coming right out of college. But I strongly believe that by the time that we get to the end of the year, and that we will have success that could match in the regular season last year, and that we be in as good as better shape to compete in the playoffs. That's what all this is about. And we are not compromised because of cap, as much as I implied that it way in terms of handicapping. We're in a situation where these young players, where they're first, second, third year guys, they've got to start carrying the mail for the Cowboys.
Mike, on Beebe, we're looking at him at center. What are the traits that you see in him that I think you had Dietrich Smith maybe make a move from tackle to center in Green Bay? What are the traits that you see in him that you say, okay, he can play some center for you?
Well, I think if you just, I know my particular process, you just, start watching the film and hear, our scouts talk about him, and then, and going through the whole, month worth of meetings. And I mean, I don't know how much film you've seen on him. I mean, this guy's a hell of an interior football player, and I know he's played every position at K-State. So the contact balance, the footwork, I don't recall another lineman in the draft dumping as many defenders on the ground as Cooper. So I just love his play style, and then our scouts do a tremendous job of getting to know these young men and seeing how they're wired, and you get a lot of postseason information, and everybody you talk to thinks it's a no-brainer for him to go in there and play full time, because he has played center in his college career. So I just think he's an excellent fit, but I love his play style, and that's where it starts, and we can't have enough of those types of players on our team.
John.
John Michaud of The Athletic. Will, you've talked about it before, but what's like the rest of today like for you guys with the undrafted free agency? If you could just take us kind of through the process of what goes on there.
Yes, that's the other part of the draft. It's the players that didn't get drafted and that you have some love for, and you think that they can add something to your roster. So now we're dividing those up. We're looking at guys, and it's a competition. It's almost a free market, and we're talking to guys about opportunities and the best chance for them to get on the field, and our history and with free agents and guys making the roster, and attacking guys at positions positions that we think we need and players that we think will improve us. So that's going on right now, and it'll probably go on for another couple of hours till we settle it down. But we're trying to get those guys to fill in those holes and make us a better roster. And it's especially this year, the draft. There was a lot of players that were draftable, and with guys going back to school, that pool might be a little bit tighter of the free agents. So you've got to be concentrated and know what's out there and what you prefer. You could be chasing your tail. We're very targeted on the guys that we want to go after and have a good chance of getting those, and that adds more value to the draft class.
We had about 10 players left on our board, and obviously they were a focus to go along with a group we call our 7/8s, which are priority free agents. And we're hot and heavy on those, and that's where that's like you said, Will. That's the second part of our draft, and I think so far we're looking like we're doing a pretty good job. I mean, that's ongoing while we're sitting right here, but there's a real methodical way that we go, about the mechanics of how we make that happen.
And then for Mike, how does that process compare to maybe when you were in Green Bay to now? And do you like to be involved heavily in that, or do you leave it more to the scouts? Just what is your process?
He was on the phone with one of our best ones right before we walked in here.
Got the call back, and the reason y'all waited a little bit because they were literally wanting him on the phone with them, talking to him.
It's an excellent process here. I mean, obviously being at other organizations, but just the coordination that the personnel department does ahead of time, and and the relationships not only with the agents but the kids, and and also these young men are still waiting hopefully to get drafted too. So there is an early part of it, but it's extremely organized, and it's clearly the most productive rookie free agent system that I've been a part of. I think the opportunity to take advantage of this market has been a premium for us, and I think the numbers of current rookie free agents on our squad, that are here today, I think it speaks for itself.
It's the same deal. Sean Payton was he was trying to get us to improve our bonus offer to Romo from 10 to 15. Elway was on the line with him at Denver. I thought Sean was biased because Romo was from his school, but he was saying, man, he had been in there trying to get us to take him. And so we were sitting there, and he finally squeezed out another $5,000, and we won the bid for 15 for Romo right here in free agency. So classic picture of kind of how this thing can work. Literally right there bidding against somebody.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. This can go for anybody, whether it be Tyler Guyton having to earn himself at tackle at Oklahoma, or Marshawn Neal and Ryan Flournoy having to kind of earn their marks at smaller schools. It seems like there's a blue-collar mentality around this draft class. Was that something that you guys kind of sought out this year specifically, or just kind of unfolded that way?
I think our coach has got a lot of blue-collar in him, and in that sense. And so his personality, I think, kind of permeates what you're talking about here in this draft. And I know that the word that I kept, I sit right beside him, and he kept reminding me of the big boys on the defense and in our division, and he kept talking about we just need that's why he likes Beebe so much. We just need to get in here and have some more in the dirt footballs, to use it there. But seriously, I do think that was alive and well in our room, that attitude about what he would like to inject into the ethos of the team.
Scott Dixon with the AP. Jerry, you mentioned Trey Lance earlier. Obviously, a DAC extension would change this, but at the moment, there's not a quarterback under contract beyond this year. I just wonder how much quarterback was a conversation during this draft, and how do you look at that position as you kind of peek past this year into the next few years?
Because of the uniqueness of our negotiations with DAC, anticipation of where that might go, then what I will dwell on is the fact that all quarterbacks are under contract for this year. Now, that's a pretty good spot to be in, too. And so, seriously, I'm not trying to be cute. So you think about that. Now, obviously, we have to think around the corner about future years. But right now, that whole position's under contract, and the more you want to look around the corner or step up for the future, the more things that you have to guess on what's going to be next year and the next year and the next year. So all of that's in consideration. But I will tell you right now, as I said the other night, Dak, just because there's not a reported communication, that doesn't mean anything at all. That's a constant around here as far as assessing, doodling, talking to yourself in the mirror, whatever. That's going on constantly, that we can get it to where it's not a question mark.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. This is for Mike. Jerry had mentioned the draft class last year and how they had to have an impact. Can you expound on that a little bit about how important last year's class will be going this year? Because you always talk about making a second-year jump with guys.
Oh, absolutely. I think our history speaks to that. Our young guys have played early, maybe played a little earlier than most of the teams I've coached. So, yes, I think that last year's class and will definitely take that jump. And I think also that we talked about the three young men that have been on injury reserve. I mean, and you got to remember, we get to watch these guys come in here every day and go through rehab. Watch them work on the field with Britt Brown and so forth. So those are those extra players that we're excited about. And at the end of the day, this time of year is about building the most competitive 90-man roster, and I think we've been hitting a target all month preparing for this, and we feel really good about what we've accomplished so far. And now the next step is rookie orientation, off-season program. You got the 5-week summer plan. One thing about the National Football League, it works on 6-month schedules. And we all understand what we want to do next year, but we got a lot of work to do. And now that this big piece is over, it'll be great to get these young guys in here and get to work with our veterans.
Saad Yusuf, The Athletic. Jerry, at the Senior Bowl, you mentioned that you singled out the rush offense and run defense as two areas you guys wanted to improve this offseason. How do you assess those two areas now with the draft books?
Well, we got bigger in both, and maybe the most important part of the run game. We got bigger in the offensive line. And so, seriously. And so you could say that over on the defensive side of the ball, really. I think we all know that we need to adjust in those areas. You got to adjust someplace unless you want it, and you probably need to adjust when you win it. So we do want to have more big boys up front.
And then, Will, you mentioned Justin Rogers, but defensive tackle, is there more is it Mazy Smith taking the next step? I mean, how do you guys see defensive tackle, and, what were you guys looking at in the draft in terms of addressing that?
I'll let Mike do that one on it, but I can speak to you from 1,000 feet up or 5,000 feet up. Yeah, Mazy's got to do a lot better than he did last year, and I think he certainly will.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mazy's an example of a young man going through the first year, and every rookie season is different, and there's lessons to be learned. And we're all counting on Mazy to take the next step. Most importantly, he believes it, so he's doing the things necessary right now to get himself ready. He's going through a rehab process. So yes, we see big things for Mazy.
Go. Joseph Hoyt, Lone Star Live. Will, you mentioned there were a couple guys that you guys liked pretty early. A couple guys we talked to on the phone said that they were even a little surprised to get that phone call from you guys, and 30 visits or stuff like that. When you like a guy early and you've identified that, how does the rest of the process kind of go in terms of kind of reaffirming that and scouting that out?
There's not only the 30 visits that come in because you guys do a really good job of sniffing that stuff out, and people tend to, we look at other teams to try and find those trends and tendencies, and so if we don't bring guys in, we're still going to spend that time with them, the area scouts, the coaches from a Zoom meeting, the coaches going out to workouts, and so all of that is to gather information on who the guys are and if we can coach them and they fit into our deal. So it's an ongoing process that we'll do in a number of different ways. You can only bring certain number of guys in for 30 visits, so we try and structure those out a certain way, and we try and structure out our exposures to guys in the different ways that are available to us to make sure that we have enough information on them.
And then do you kind of find that sometimes those first impressions and those early things you liked about them kind of end up coming to the forefront a little bit in the draft war room and when you guys are on the clock?
Yeah, 100%. And because what we do is we gather information. We talk to people about those people, all right? That starts to formulate the opinion. Then we get our chance to spend time with them, and if those things match, and then the external people that talk to them. So you try and match all of that information together to figure out who the guy is as best you can. We really won't know till we get him in here, but we want to have a good enough basis to know if they love football, if they'll work hard enough, and if it's important to them.
Michael McCarthy, Dallas Morning News. Maybe the youngest position on your guys' roster is tight end. You guys added Brevin Spanford. He agreed to terms part of before you guys got here, as you did. What does that competitive young group look like, and how good of a competition do you think that'll be in the months ahead?
Brings out the best in you, right? More competition. More competition brings out the best in everybody.
I think it's great. I mean, seriously, you can't. I'll say this, there's different things you believe in as a roster, and I don't think you're going to have enough 6'4", 250-pound, prototype players on your team, and especially with the kickoff and kickoff return, I think that's even more prominent right now. So yes, I agree with Will 100%. You want every position to be competitive as it can be, and I think special teams, and there's a lot more reps of special teams that are going to occur in these games, and tight ends, linebackers, outside linebackers, that body type will be pretty prominent, particularly in kickoff coverage.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. For Jerry and Stephen, you talk about being active in undrafted free agency. How active do you see yourself being post-draft and veteran free agency with guys like Zeke, Stephon Gilmore, Jaron Kearse, some of your guys who played for you and are still out there?
Stephen, you good time?
Yeah, like I said, I've always said that player acquisition's 365 days a year, and we'll continue to work that part of it and improve our roster. And I certainly see. Actually, we were on the phone with a couple guys here trying to get our numbers right. Looking at guys who can come in here and help us. That might be veteran-type players versus the college players. I'm up here pecking away on my phone, seeing how we're doing. But, this is a busy time for us right now, and we're not only taking care of the college guys, but that's got to work together with what we're doing with the pro guys, and then it'll continue to work itself out. I mean, we'll replace guys as we move forward, and I just see our roster continuing to evolve, and we'll continue to get better.
Stephen, and I'm not holding you to this, but we can probably trade with another club pretty much for the next 6 or 7 months, can't we?
Oh, absolutely, all the way through the trade deadline.
And,
and then as we know, with a little turnover on our staff, we've got guys who, with Zim coming in and Dan going out, there's a little difference in philosophy, and they like their guys, and we like now maybe a little different type of guy. There's no massive turnover, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of, opportunities there that maybe could help both of us, and then some of Dan's guys went to different teams too. So all those are opportunities that could evolve with our rosters.
I've seen teams win the Super Bowl with running backs that they traded for in midseason. So the point is that this thing's a long way from being over as to how you're going to line up against X next fall.
Todd. Will, having the Shrine game here, did that end up being any kind of help? And just having more of your guys around maybe?
Yeah, it was a big advantage. Like the more things that you have here, and you don't have to go on the road, you can sleep in your own bed, all that stuff, and then the opportunity to visit with all of those players and having instead of maybe having one or two guys at an all-star game, we have the full staff to spend time to interview, to do all of those things, so you do get more exposure to it. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to find out about these guys for ourselves after hearing other people's opinion on them, and so any exposure we get like that, it helps us.
But Todd, so you know, we followed the rules. So there you go again, trying to, because it's in our own backyard, get Will to say something.
You know, we ask questions and get answers that we don't know about. We're not trying to throw it in.
Oh, we're kidding with you, Todd.
No one's defensive.
You're getting red. I mean, you're getting. I'm kidding with you.
Normally, you'd like to think you were among friends and could be.
There was no one in the quarterback club.
If you had a slip. Yeah. If you had a slip, you would be protected among your friends.
Anybody have anything? We're not going to have time to stop out here for walk-off or anything, so anybody got anything else?
Stephen,
We're walking off.
We're not the big three guys of the, Dak, CD, and Micah. Does any of that take more of a emphasis or more of a priority now?
It's always a priority, those three. Always.
Jerry, not really a draft question. How do you feel about someone one day wearing the number 0 as a Cowboy?
Yes. I feel yes. And so that's a funny thing. There are no precedents or rules on how we do that. Now, we do know that if a veteran has it, then that's got to be worked out with the younger player if he wants that particular number. But I don't know of anything. I don't harbor anything that makes 0 sacrosanct to any reply there. I don't. 0.
He'll have to check with Rowdy first. That's Rowdy's number.
I asked Rowdy. I said, Rowdy, now I've had it.
So Mike,
you had your van in the wrong place. They photographed it at 4 a.m. And we're doing birthday parties for little kids. And second, you squirting those high-powered water guns in the wrong place at training camp. And you guys may know him. I wish we had him. But anyway, he looked over at me. But he looked over at me and said, Mr. Jones, I'll talk to Rowdy about it.
Jerry, if it does work out with Zeke, he's been around forever, he knows you all inside and out. If that does work out, when would you like to have him around? Is it in the off-season? Could it be later than that? What do you all think on that?
He's a positive influence at all times. At all times. Not one time, even in maybe some of a critical time of him and what have you, has he been anything but a positive to winning influence as a person and teammate with the Dallas Cowboys. So that's a big plus that he has. So anytime, as far as if the question was when or what, or having him around or what have you, he's a lift. He's outstanding in that area.
It could be later, but that would be fine too, right?
Listen, I don't want to get into that because I'm not sure what all we're touching on here in terms of the rules, but bottom line is that he's a positive. He's a positive. I think he would potentially be positive for this team.
All righty. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Will, do you want our grades before you go?
I can't wait to read them.